Can I?
Slide that in. Oh, perfect. You like that, Will?
Yes, Will?
That's Will.
All right.
He's recording. So BD, who's your person?
Wow, really?
You want some foreplay?
I need a little foreplay.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I'm ready for the person.
No,
I
I
was
can,
just gonna pour
we
myself
can
some
have
water.
a drink, we can
No.
dance.
You know, this person is on my mind constantly, 24 hours a day almost these days. Because
Is it
I'm in
Donald
collaboration
Trump?
with. No. Actually, that's so 2020. No. But I'm in collaboration with this person, and for me, collaboration is one of the deepest relationships, one of the most satisfying, one of the more interesting, and so I guess I'll just say her name, Judy Gold. Yes. And what is is there anything goes here? Like, do I just go off on Judy Gold, or do you ask a question?
Tell me, no. Talk a little about Judy Gold. Why did you make her your person? What's it like working with her?
Yes.
Is she as tall as she looks when she stands there?
She is, and she just love you saying that. She does it. Well, I'm kind of like at a loss to where to begin, but I will say that what I'm working on with her is this wonderful, unique solo performance that she is doing at primary stages in town. And I know it sounds a little bit like I'm publicizing it, but it really will tell you the whole story of why I've chosen her. And that is because I met her in the middle 90s, and we were performers on a television show called All American Girl, which was Margaret Cho, the comedian's. We were the first Asian American family on television. And it was a really intense and kind of famously troubled television kind of story. And Judy played one of her two best friends, and I was Margaret's older brother. And we hit it off, the four of us who played Margaret's friends, and Margaret, me, and Maddie Corman, and who played her other best friend, and Judy, became fast friends and spent a lot of time off screen together, socializing. And immediately my rapport with Judy was this kind of boundary pushing, we kind of had like an antagonistic sibling relationship.
Did she steal anything from you?
No.
Did you steal anything from her?
Just material.
Oh, well, that's fair enough.
But she is a well-known stand-up. She's a veteran stand-up. She's been doing stand-up for decades now, and really knows the form really well, and knows how to discuss it and talk about it, and she does that in this show. But my relationship with her was always very hilariously, aggressively inappropriate. So we come from a time and a background where that inappropriateness was relished, and we really like dove into it. We didn't do it in mixed company. We did it within the most of us would be the four of us, and the four of us were all, as any of you know Margaret's stand-up.
Filthy.
Yes, not somebody who would be in this radio context with all of the, rules about cursing and stuff like that, which I can barely abide by. And so Margaret sets a tone for that kind of freedom, and it really can be wonderfully liberating to push your friends' buttons and have them push yours. So we did that, and we had but Judy and I were never really super duper close. We just kept in touch, and we always connected and reconnected with that energy that we have with each other whenever we saw each other. One of the I don't know, things that we remember about our relationship in the past was when the show was about to end. I gave her an incredibly inappropriate coloring book.
Filthy?
Filthy. Well, not even filthy. Actually, kind of. I can't even talk about it actually. But it's a coloring book, so it is all kind of given in the spirit of like childlike, expression and creativity. But it was not for kids. And so we talk about that, and that was that's kind of an emblematic of the stuff that we did with each other. And in recent years, I wanted her very badly to meet another good friend of mine, Anastasia Barzi, and I initiated a text thread. And in the text thread, we started complaining about people on social media or gossiping, or, in the same kind of way that the four of us did back in the 90s, the three of us, within the safety of our text thread, said whatever we wanted to each other and about other people and all of that stuff, as we all do. And what we found was this kind of strange pocket of time where I'm an insomniac and I stay up super duper late, and Anastasia's on the West Coast, so 11 o'clock for her is 2 o'clock for me. And then Judy's on the road every day in various places, in a rather a warrior-like, solitary, somewhat lonesome kind of experience in hotels.
It's not like it's brutal. It's miserable.
Brutal.
If you aren't a sociopath, then that's what made you a stand-up.
Yes, exactly.
The life will make you a
Yes,
sociopath.
and she'd be the first person to say that.
Yeah.
And so she'd be in a room somewhere and we'd be laughing or having a great time and talking or analyzing something, or she'd go to sleep and Anastasia and I would go on, and then she'd wake up in the morning and have 384 texts that she could read while on the toilet or something like that, and catch up, and she would read them. And we found this, the three of us, but Judy especially, found this incredibly bolstering and life-affirming and positive. And Anastasia and Judy, maybe it was at my wedding they might have met, but they have barely spent any time in the room together. My wedding was in 2018. I would imagine they met at our wedding. So anyway, fast forward to just last year, I got a call that Judy was asking me, through our representatives, actually not even from Judy, if I would direct her off-Broadway show that was based upon the book that she wrote in 2020 about comics and free speech. The book is called Yes, I Can Say That, and it's her historical, history lesson, a diatribe, and articulation of the particular predicament that comics are in a world in which people think that you can't say certain things or shouldn't say certain things, and how comics relate to free speech and the First Amendment, and as you say, Donald Trump and people like him intervening in the process of a comedian, as Donald Trump has done, and so I said yes to this job. And what I didn't, and I was really excited about this because I have been working more as a director and enjoying that and cultivating it, and realizing actually this late in my life that I spent so much time cultivating my acting career, but always began as a director and as a writer, and it took me kind of a whole wake-up moment to realize that I had to dedicate a fair amount of energy back to it if I wanted to do it, which I've always thought, I'll get back to it at some point, and I never really have. And so in recent years, I have been dedicating to it. So this was a perfect opportunity for me to do it. And that was all great, that I would take this on and it would be fun, and it's Judy and I love Judy and all of that. But further than that, the show has become extremely important to me, as well as Judy has become extremely important to me. My relationship with her has deepened incredibly. I feel that we have collaborated in a way that was rather intense and full of joy and full of great humor and all of that same inappropriate behavior. And the end product is this show that she's doing every night with primary stages at 59 E59. And it's remarkable to kind of be a part of the evolution of a whole show and see the way that it turns out, and to see your friend doing it, and to appreciate that, and to feel very proud of it, and to feel very proud of her, and to feel a kind of I'm different now than I was before kind of feeling, particularly in regards to my relationship to her.
So having a professional relationship changed your personal relationship?
Yes, that's right. And I learned so much
But
about
how?
her. How?
Yeah.
Because as a director, I had to ask her tough questions.
Do you have
And
to
she had
boss
to-
her around?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if that's what you want to call it. If that's what you insist on calling it, yes, yes. And I'm not going to hedge from that. Yes. But also what I would do is I was in a position where I would try to, as a director, try to see the bigger picture of something and try to seduce or convince or collaborate or weigh in about a direction that you think it might go. And so for the two of us, as well as her co-writer, Eddie Sarfati, to be kind of negotiating this territory, three creative people, and trying to say, for example, there's so much rich material in this book that she wrote, and it is about such interesting things, and it has an incredibly detailed and wonderful history of stand-up comedy in it. And so how much of that to include in the onstage production of it. And then how to say, well, that's all well and good, but really what people need from you is for it to be extremely personal. For it not to just to be talking about the history of stand-ups and about what makes you angry about stand-ups and the First Amendment and censorship and free speech, but why you are doing this, why do you feel this way, what does it mean, and what can the audience get from you as a character in a play, which is not an approach that most people take to comedy specials, stand-up comedy in general. So this production has a slightly, well, if you know about stand-up and you've seen HBO comedy specials and stuff, you can feel the difference.
Well, I would say a stand-up can be a kind of essayist, and it can be a form for discussing ideas.
Yes.
But that's not why I go to the theater.
Yes,
I mean, there
that's
are
right.
ideas in every play
Yes,
I
that's
care
right.
about, but finally, it's primarily about that character that's on stage.
I think so.
Will you buy that
Oh,
distinction?
I absolutely do. Yes, that's what
Would
exactly
you
what
buy
I
that distinction?
What I would. Yes. Oh, yeah. And she never fought me about it. It's just a kind of thing where you get into a rehearsal room, which is a wonderfully, it's just a magical place. There's just so many possibilities in it. And you start asking questions and having a dialogue. And on the first day of any rehearsal of any play, you are nervous about that chemistry or nervous about where someone might be coming from, anyone. Whether it be the leading lady of the show or a designer or the stage manager or anybody involved in it, you are negotiating territory that is only as good as the health of the collaborators' ability to converse or share or their egos are in check or whatever it is. And that creativity is so stimulating and wonderful and incredible.
You wouldn't be if you had a kind of rift in your friendship from working together, you wouldn't be the first people who tried to take a personal relationship and make it a professional relationship, and then it exploded terribly. Are you
Yes,
still
yeah.
friends?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I think that's the reason why I brought her up today. I hesitate before I say anyone's gender these days. I just want to make sure I have to just it's like a split second, right? But even Judy, and so I don't know. I feel like one of the reasons why I chose her is because what's interesting to me in the story is how our relationship changed, evolved, deepened, became even richer, and I think also in many ways mutually. I like to think I can't speak for her, but I like to think we understand each other better. I understand her better. She's got a reputation, or her shtick, her persona is a kind of loudmouth, broad, kind of potty mouth. Not that different from Margaret, but with a very different kind of sensibility. Different observations. She's a different person, so she has a different point of view. But underneath all of that is. These things all kind of make more sense when you get a more three-dimensional view of somebody. So I love that.
So it's sort of like Outward Bound, only you do it on stage.
I don't know what that is.
Outward
Outward
Bound
Bound?
is this kind of camping, hiking thing
Oh,
you do that it's
no
supposed to be
wonder I don't
incredibly
do it.
difficult. And,
You mean it's
no.
like Naked and Afraid? Is it like that?
Yeah, I guess so. To put it in terms that some of us can understand. Yeah. So and that people who were friends and by going through something very intense
absolutely.
together, they've learned new things about each other. Like you probably know things about. Well, you probably don't know about how she could climb a rope in the rain, but
Not like that,
no,
but I know other
but
things. Yeah.
metaphorically, you've climbed a rope or two in the rain.
Well, I learned, even spending time with somebody in a work environment, even if
Yeah.
it wasn't a show, you learn about their partners and you learn about, they come late and you wonder why, and then they tell you, and then you go, oh, I see what this person's life is like. And you get in there and you learn so many colors of who they are, and then you realize that the person that was presented to you or that you drew from them was of a rather, not surfacey in a bad way, but it was only so much, you could only know so much about them from the nature of the relationship that I had with her before. I could only know her so well.
Well, that's where private detectives come in. And
Yes,
I
that's
explain
right.
it. So let's take 1 minute and we'll be right back.
I wish I was a mole in the ground, and I wish I was a mole in the ground. If a mole in the ground, I'd root that mountain down. I wish I was a mole in the ground.
Excellent, even better.
Simply wants a $9 show.
Thank you.
Simply wants a $9 show. When I come over the hill with a $40 bill, just baby, where you been so long? Well, I've been so long. Baby, I've been so long. Baby, I've been with a rough and rowdy man. I've been Well, I don't like a railroad man. Don't like a railroad man. 'Cause a railroad man will kill you when he can drink up your blood like wine. Hurry.
Thank you. So where's your place?
My place is a particular seat on the R train.
Did you think that would get a lot?
Well, maybe it was my delivery or something?
Well, your delivery was wonderful. I was surprised. I didn't think that would get a lot. And I'm not trying to understand why it got a lot.
Well, because it's not like Milan or Florence or
Okay.
and my mother's kitchen table even. It requires explanation, and I guess what it speaks to is what I guess I didn't realize until recently. In this particular regard, what a creature of habit that I am, and that I actually go on the train and then I gravitate towards the same seat, which is a particular seat next to the door, but in the short side of the train, near the door that you walk in, but also near the door, what I call the panhandler door, the door where people cross through the train. And I prefer to sit there. And actually, last summer, I was rehearsing at the studios right across the street from here, rehearsing a musical. And my good friend Darren Lee, the choreographer, and I rode the train together. And he said you always pick the same seat. and you always pick the seat that I would never pick, because I feel trapped when I sit in that seat. And I thought, that's really interesting. I feel the opposite of trapped when I sit in that seat. So it shows you kind of the subjectivity of the various seats on the train and how people interpret them to be certain things, and there's no real right answer whether it's an entrapment seat or not. And I'm very sentimental about the train because my son is obsessed with public transportation. Since he was 3 years old, we took him to the train. I took him in the stroller to the Union Square station, and we sat for an hour at least at a time watching the trains pull in and out of the station. And he became more and more obsessed with public transportation. He's now a young adult, still obsessed with public transportation, with a healthy public transportation based Instagram account and reporting on all of the comings and goings of the MTA, and aspiring to work in some way related to public transportation.
This is a noble call. The public transportation.
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
not.
it is.
I'm
is.
not being ironic in any
No,
way. But
he is
It's what
a
holds us
champion
together
for
as a
the.
city. It's a force for democracy. It's a shared experience. It
Yes.
makes the city go.
Yes.
You should be. I hope
I
you
would
sound like
be.
I'm proud. You would be proud if you
I
were.
would be. I'm surprisingly emotional about it as you're talking about it, because it is that thing, and I meet a lot of young people and talk to a lot of young people in whatever context that I'm in, and one thing that I'm always looking for is for them to know themselves, or to know what their secret bliss is, or the thing that they identify with the most. And I relate to this to him. I discovered that I was a performer in some way, or a storyteller in some way, very early on in my life. And so he has this kind of nerdy obsession that people have when they're really attached to something and they're really identified with it. That is, it is a part of the nobility of the thing, because he carries and he champions it. He's very, very opinionated about our politicians and he votes. He's a single issue voter.
Transit voter.
Yeah, he's a transit voter. And he has a few things to say about certain people whose names will remain nameless. And I love that about him.
Oh yeah, and that, would you agree that it's one of the ways in which we New Yorkers are morally superior to the people who live in Houston? Is that we use
Sure.
public transit and not private cars?
Yes, that's right.
Private cars isolate. Private
Yes.
cars make you think of everything as feudal individualist solutions for what are community problems. But the trains are the opposite of that.
Yes, they are. I mean, I'm will never tire of it or feel compromised by it or feel less than by using it or anything. And here we are in a warehouse where we provide resources to creative people, and that there's an openness to it, and there's a kind of fairness to it that's noble and moving, and I that's a place that I like to live in. I like to be in that mindset where we all are part of each other's day.
Yeah, you're
And
part of it.
I like that.
And I'm not being overly sentimental. I know that the person I'm sitting next to on the subway, that's a stranger. It's
Yes.
not a friend.
Yes.
But I have some contact with them in a way. If I lived in Houston or Dallas or Atlanta.
Or Los Angeles.
Or Los Angeles,
Yeah.
I hate to,
Yeah.
if you want to use an ugly word. You would not
You
have
could
that
bleep it
experience.
on
As
the
just a
radio.
routine part of your life. And I think
Yeah.
it's humanizing.
I do think it's very humanizing and grounding and wonderful, and I love it. And so I connect these two things because, first of all, because he's become so obsessed with the trains and with the buses, I'm hyper aware of my train environment when I get on the train. I'm always aware of what number train I'm on. He'll say, "What number were you on?" He doesn't do that so much anymore, but he is. When I get on a new train, he's very all into the new trains rolling out, and there's some beautiful new trains
It's on the
rolling out.
R line, right?
I don't know what line actually, but what I'm saying is if I see a new train, I'm trained now, no pun intended, to report on the the brand of the train, whether it is a Bombardier train or whether it is a Kawasaki train, and whether it has what number it is and what car I'm on,
Yeah.
and all of the things that come with it. And I've, been trained to take videos in 4K on my phone, and all of those things. And it's a huge part of my understanding of him, or my relationship to him, or my entry point to him. Because I think as a parent, I always not struggle. Well, I did struggle, wanting to be relevant to him, wanting him to like me, wanting to connect with him. So I kind of bent over backwards to provide a full-on transit experience whenever I could, because I could. And that I could do. Like, I couldn't afford a lot of expensive things. I could put my, he used to be obsessed with a particular bus, and the bus was 5630. It was a bus number 5630 in the fleet of New York buses. And on a Saturday, we would go out to find it. To have water. And you'll be shocked how successful we could be. But running all over town, riding various buses, and him kind of like saying, well, let's get off here. Let's just get off. We're getting off. And then all of a sudden I'm picking up all our stuff and we're running off the bus and running to another bus and getting on it and looking for it. Now, you get to learn, as you would in any city, if you are in tune with any kind of service or aspect of it, how to find out the best clues of where it might be, what line it's on, when it gets rolled out, where it lives. And so we would often go up to the train yard, the bus yard, and the garage, and kind of just wait there to see the buses going in and out. He says it should be done and should be coming. He would know. This is when he's 9, 10, and those memories are incredible memories. At a time when I thought, not to get too, messy here, but at a time when I worried about my relationship to him, or I was separated from my ex, and so I was very worried about what the collateral damage of the breaking up of the relationship was, and so this was joy that I could count on. So I kind of connect. I don't know. I'm not sitting in that chair, in that seat, because of the numbers and but that is the part of the train where all the information is, if you are looking for the number of the train. And so I'm not saying that's why I'm doing it, but I am connecting my train riding experience to these memories, for sure. I love riding the train. As we just discussed, I loved it as a citizen and as a I don't know, a person who believes in democracy or whatever. I do that naturally. But further than that, I lean into these memories. I'm extremely aware of the role that the train has played in my life as a person, not just as a person trying to get somewhere. Well, I was trying to get somewhere, but it wasn't from a transportation standpoint. So thank you for making me think about this, because it's not something, except in therapy perhaps, I might be exploring.
But this is covered by Medicare. It's
Goodness.
You're so lucky that this was his interest, rather than say Dungeons and Dragons. You'd have to
not
play
to
some
put down
horrible
Dungeons.
game.
Yes, it's true. Though it's true. But I will say it was pretty challenging. I mean, it was pretty challenging to get up at early in the morning and go, we're gonna go out and we're just gonna ride the bus all day for hours and hours, and we would do it. And I mean, it wasn't just that. There was lots of other fun things going on. But the stories that I have about his childhood that he would share, that we would both share, are a lot of them are related to this kind of craziness. of running around looking for the bus or also riding the trains.
Great. Harvey? One more?
Of it.
Yeah, this one's called
Let's take
Tuning
a
the
moment.
Banjo.
If you were like going to med school and you were doing surgery, you could do like 6 or 7 people.
That's true, yeah. I miss my calling.
BD, what's your thing?
What's my thing? I have it. I don't know. Should we pass it around? It's.
Now you'll never get it back on you.
Yeah, I mean, it probably isn't a secret that we kind of spoke before because we can't just like throw it. You can't like. I had to think about this and what it was going to be.
We
But I don't remember how I reached the conclusion that this was my thing. But I think so. I'll just say, and I don't even know what this thing is called. Okay, but it is a kitchen gadget, and some of you might have one of these things. But first, I'll tell what it is. It is a handle and with a kind of flared out rounded small spatula type protuberance and a small sharp plastic hook in the tip of the point of this. It looks a little bit like a stingray, I guess. Okay, good. So people at home
Before
know
you
that it's like
explain
that.
its function,
Yeah.
do you think anyone in this room can guess its function by looking at it?
Well, if they have one, they can. But
Well, that's- yeah, of course if they
it's like,
have
it's like
one.
remember Joker's Wild? Remember that? It was a game show where would-be celebrities would guess what things were. Well, does somebody want to guess what this is?
Ice cream cone?
Is it like into an orange or like a grapefruit or a lemon?
Yes,
Peels, sort of
that's very
like
close. No. No. Well, it is, so I guess what I like about it is it's so specific. And what it is it's very similar to what you're saying. It is that when you cut an onion in half, the skin of the onion will take you a half an hour to get, just to kind of pick at until you get it. And all this does is create a notch in the edge of the onion to which there instantly becomes a peelable opening that doesn't cut the onion to speak of at all. There are very similar things for oranges, that you can cut the rind of an orange and then the rest of the peeling it's like a starter for an orange. And in fact, the same kind of backslash kind of hook is the same kind of thing that are on those orange things. But I find this such a random and useful item. I use this all of the time, and I guess what I was remembering now that what I was trying to think about when I was trying to pick this thing. It is this idea that, first of all, I love hacks. I love things, nowadays on social media and everywhere. There are people trying to make your life better or describe things that you can do that make your life easier, or you could do something quicker, or did you realize you can do something. A lot of times these hacks are not hacks at all. They're waste of time. But a lot of times they're really like insightful and interesting. There's a hack, for example, of a person saying, you don't have to pour the pasta and the water into the colander. You can put the colander in the pot and turn the pot upside down, and then the spaghetti is still in the pot for you to put the stuff in. It could be a disaster doing it that way. But they are theoretically right. And so this hack, the idea of the hack is interesting because human beings are always trying to come up with a clever answer to something. Also, some people are interested in helping other people and making their lives better. I like that. This is a thing that somebody is actually, went through a whole design and engineering process to make, and I bought it and I use it religiously. And I guess what I was saying before is that there's an object for everything that you want to do in your kitchen. There's a thing that will take a tube that you can put the garlic in and roll it, and then it takes the skin off the garlic. There are things you can do, and so you have to decide the tasks that are important to you, and the ones that you access the most, or the ones that you need the most, or the ones that mean the most to you, because your drawers cannot hold all of the things that people are making for these various things. The question: do you need an apple corer? Are you an apple corer person?
So this is the kind of self-scrutiny that requires
I think
rigorous
so.
self-knowledge to know what that
Well, I think it happens naturally, right? You either keep, a
you
lot
don't
of
have
things.
infinite space. You keep some things and discard some.
Just to tie it into the venue, I'm sure that a lot of these things that have not made the grade have ended up in my materials for the arts donation.
Well, I do this with books that I now have. I've decided the shelf space I have is the shelf space I have, and when I finish a book, I have to decide, am I going to keep it or not? And it's not whether it's good or not. It's a lot goes into that decision.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to keep it, I have to get rid of another book.
Yes, that's how I am about.
Is that how you are with kitchen goods?
And shoes.
And shoes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have.
And friends? No, that would be horrible, right?
Well,
But you don't have room for infinite
But
friends.
you know what? Let's just explore that for a second, because I think that's really a very interesting concept. Because that sounds cruel and awful, but the fact is, the people that work for you and really make you think and make you do the things that make you feel like you're you and support you, and that you feel lovingly supportive of, those are rare things. And one doesn't necessarily have time to cultivate any relationship or friendship that is a possibility.
Right, there are only so many hours in the day. And you
it's
want to
true.
spend them in a way that's rewarding.
That's right. And I think that's
It
part
sounds
of
less
getting.
cruel when I put it that way. But if you met a new person and you like them, would you then go through your roster of friends and go, who can I
Who can I
date?
jump?
That's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah, that's kind of horrible.
So what's the difference? You just have to disguise it.
Well, it kind of happens
To
naturally,
yourself.
right?
Naturally.
Well, because it takes a fair amount of effort to maintain a friendship, and if you
Yeah.
stop putting that effort in, are you doing it because you decided that you were going to not do it anymore, or did it just happen naturally because the time?
Well, what you're
time for
calling
one thing,
natural
but-
can just mean you're deceiving yourself, and it shows a lack of self-knowledge and a refusal to make a decision and recognize what you do.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't do that. I
Which
wouldn't.
is-
I
oh,
wouldn't. I
certainly,
wouldn't
I
know.
mean you.
I would. I don't know, you know, I think our hearts are layered with a lot of defense mechanisms and things that allow us to do things or to encourage, you know, steer us into doing things. We don't even know why we're doing them a lot of the times. And so I like to analyze these things, as you were saying. I'm really interested in why we do things and yet I think I don't know. I think in some ways, I think a lot of people would say, yeah, I don't have time for that person anymore. And maybe that does sound cruel, but there's probably a reason, you know, there's probably a reason. I don't know what else to say about that, but it is all kind of a human, it's finite. We don't have, there's no room, there's no life that can contain everything.
That's right,
Yeah,
and that's yet another way that New York is superior
Yes.
to the other cities we mentioned. We have a limited amount of storage space. It's not like you're going to put stuff in the garage.
No, we have a limited amount, yes, yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
so this
forces
mechanism,
you
yes.
have to ask these questions.
You are possibly a slightly different kind of person than you would be if you lived somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, more than slightly.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And then you see, of course, people that are not successful in doing that in New York, in, you know, hoarders and things.
Well, they have storage lockers in their basement.
Or they're just cramming everything into their
Oh.
lives and it's untenable for them.
Even
Right?
worse,
It's,
yeah.
it's personal relationships as well as objects. They will crowd you if you let them.
But there's a limit to this metaphor. I mean, if you saw someone that has a very cluttered kitchen and has gadgets everywhere, you don't assume that their emotional life is that way, or do you?
I think I do.
Do you?
I think I've never been a hoarder, but I've been a collector, and I have been someone who saves things. And I grew up with my parents, Chinese American parents and grandparents and grandkid. My parents are the grandkid and the offspring of immigrants, and so they saved everything, and they never, you know, my dad would put. I remember this. My dad would put rubber bands on the doorknob.
Yeah.
And then the doorknob would just become, it would have a kind of what is it called, a spare tire around it of rubber bands. And I remember the first time I was in a relationship and I put a rubber band on the doorknob and somebody said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, that's where you put doorknob. That's where you put your rubber band, isn't it?" I mean, it was all I knew. And he was like, "Absolutely not. We're not doing that." That relationship didn't last long. But I did save lots of things and and this is part of my relationship to materials for the arts, where we are right now, which is that I have learned to negotiate my affection for objects and try to still be me while I'm giving myself and the people that I live with a place to breathe. And this selection process, this vetting process is a part of that effort and that idea of thinking in that way, which I don't have to think the other way anymore. I don't have to think, wow, when am I going to have another plastic bag? My dad used to carry, my dad was amazing. We would be at any restaurant or anything finishing a gluttonous meal somewhere, and there would be leftovers, and they would put things in little cartons or whatever, and my dad would say, "I have a bag," and shopping bags out of his wallet. He would have taken these plastic shopping bags, the two-handled plastic standard shopping bags, folded them, accordion pleated them, made the little like triangular footballs out of them. Triangles, right? And his wallet. See, all the Chinese people in the room are laughing. No, I mean, look at, I'm not lying.
But
And the rubber bands. Yes, oh gosh, I feel so seen.
you're all ahead of your time, because now I'm always, you go to the store, you have to bring a bag.
That's right.
And it was a
Yes.
period of adjustment for me.
Yes.
But your father was just like, he
He was
just
ahead of his
glided right
time.
in.
Yeah.
Always a bag.
Always
Always
like, see,
a-
yes,
Ah.
yes. Excellent, excellent.
Will you, you'll take some questions?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Before we do, join me in thanking Hubby Jenkins and BD Wong. Questions, yes.
It's a long time since we've seen each other, but my question is, I didn't think I heard it from you during this episode, but how do you feel about like Dave Chappelle and his comedy?
Mhm.
And obviously, forever, First Amendment for comedians.
Yeah, thank you. This is about, do I repeat the question because is it?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
It's about how do I feel, because I'm talking about Judy's show and Judy's passion for free speech and not censorship and not canceling people and stuff like that. And then what about people like Dave Chappelle? And Dave Chappelle is someone who really pushes the envelope really far and defends himself and all that. And in theory, I think we have to be very consistent about our ability for anybody to say what they want to say. That's supposed to be how it works. And I think that what Judy says in the show, and she has one line about Dave Chappelle in the show, but what she does say is the comic is well aware and should be well aware of the consequences of their statement or of their words, and that's a part of the art and the craft of being a stand-up, and that we choose the stand-ups that we gravitate to and that we are enthusiastic about because though their choices that they make appeal to us, or that we really that we subscribe to their style and their taste. And so what Judy would say is if you don't like someone like Dave Chappelle, don't consume Dave Chappelle, and don't over-validate or place more extra importance on what he's saying. Now, did somebody say something? No, okay. So, and I think Dave Chappelle is a really intense, long discussion kind of example to use. I think he has great wit and insight and has a sense of humor, but he really isn't connecting in some ways to those consequences that we're talking about, or the nuances of the things that he's talking about. And I don't know, I'd like to have a much longer conversation about it, but I would say in general, yes, go ahead.
I'd like to weigh in on this, and the bona fides I'll offer. I spent 7 years writing for Dave Letterman, so that's my comedy claim to get to have an answer to, and that I have a slightly different perspective on it. That first of all, the right to speak does not exempt you from criticism. There's this public discourse going on. If you say something that's nonsense, I get to say, well, that's just a lot of nonsense.
Yeah.
That doesn't inhibit anyone's free speech. That's the point of this cultural conversation. The other thing I would add, specific to comedy, is every joke is an assertion about the world. I see it this way. And some of those assertions are true, and some of them are hateful, racist crap. And if someone tells a joke that the assertion they're making about the world is, say, fraught with anti-Semitism, well, I get to go and, well, I won't say, I don't get to hit them, but I have, I say, as part of the audience, an obligation to respond to them.
Yes, that's right. And that's the show, she's wonderful in the show of kind of going ping-ponging back and forth in this wonderful arcade of like ideas and fears and the things of the moment, and bringing into it her own personal feelings, having been a veteran of the stand-up world for so long, and how times change or evolve and sensibilities evolve, and how she fits or does not fit into that.
Right. I mean, you hear very few mother-in-law jokes now.
Yes.
You hear very few, the world is better for it. You hear very few jokes about women drivers.
Yes,
These
yeah.
big jokes. I think we'll live to see the end. We've mostly seen the end of comical drunks.
Yes, that's
it
right.
just looks sad now. And that I think those are a kind of social progress.
Yes. Yes, agreed.
Someone else.
I'm wondering if you've considered trying to get your son to meet Andy Byford.
I love Andy Byford.
I know, me too. Me too. That's why I asked. And he's back.
My son, and I'm not completely, because I tried to give him a wide berth because apparently he responds best to me when I give him a wide berth, as a lot of people's kids do. And my son is working now on his senior thesis for his NYU senior project, which is he's graduating from NYU this year. And so he's made a documentary about the MTA and COVID.
Oh my.
And or is making it. It's due soon, so he better be finished with it soon. But you know, it's up to him. It's all up to him. I have nothing to do with it. And he's been on a real tear to interview people that are important and try to connect himself and find avenues to interview important people. And I wouldn't be surprised if Andy Byford was one of those people. But yeah, he you know, that whole Andy Byford thing is one of the things that I was alluding to when I was saying he has his opinions about people. And yeah, I would love to see that day when that happens, because
We can
he's
maybe
really
help you
good.
with that. Andy
Yes.
Byford did this show.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a hero of mine too. We
Yes.
think he's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really awesome. Okay. Wow, that would be great. That would be a really great. Yes.
And he was into trains when he was young.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it takes, really. You know, any career where you're throwing yourself into the stress and the anything, it really takes a real passion for what it is, the world that you're in. And you know, like being an actor is like, it's just not worth it if you really don't love it to a degree that's rather frightening. But yes, okay, yes, these two, yes.
Did you seek out that tool, or did you just come upon it? And does it have a
Yes.
name?
It doesn't have a name. And this is what kind of bothers me about it, because I can't say it's the thing. I guess I could call it the brand name of whatever it is here, but I can't even read it here. I can't read it, but it does need to have a name, and I mean, it's like the onion skin peeler is just not appealing.
By the onion skin, do you mean that kind of papery stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is very stubborn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But not that next layer that's more like a membrane. You mean that sort of brown papery stuff?
Oh yeah, the hard papery stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. The papery stuff. Yeah. It's just surprisingly hard to kind of get off with your fingernail. And actually, I guess I'm kind of torn, because I do like to do things myself. I'm like kind of like an old-fashioned, this is probably not going to come out right, but an old-fashioned man in that way. You know, like I would not use a map, or like try to like do the map by myself, and you know, that
I
kind
think
of
it
thing.
came out pretty
Yeah.
close.
No, but you know, gender roles and all of that stuff. It's like there is something truth to it.
Darn woman drivers
Yes,
that make
yeah.
you believe that is the man. It's a man.
Well, but anyway, I struggle with how badly do I need it? And it made my life so much easier because I cut a lot of onions. I use a lot of onions. And so then I think, yeah, this is worth it. This really did something great. I was trying to figure out if there was something else that would do this the way, and like we were talking about with the orange thing, there's just something about the way this is engineered that it can't be replicated by any other like knife or other object. So you know, I kind of celebrate the person's ingenuity and the fact that they saw this product development all the way to this place.
And if you don't get an endorsement deal out of the someone's missing that,
Well, if it had a name, I would be able to.
There would be
And it has a
one.
little a hole in it. You can hang it on your wall or something like that because you use it so much.
And it must be reassuring that you're part of a community of people with these desires. You're not alone, or they wouldn't make it.
Or they wouldn't make it.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
there
right.
must be.
Well, but some of them seem like folly. Like some of them these objects seem like, well, can't tell you what things do. What ones seem like they're not worth the time or effort. But Some of them are great. I mean, I have a cherry pitter, right? Those are really fun to use because it just, yeah, it's just a really great thing. Okay.
I want to know, will we be able to see your son's senior thesis documentary? And please thank him. I am 63 years old. I took a bus, 2 trains to get here. And now I have more of an appreciation of the trains. So please.
You mean you're a daily rider of the train, but you don't usually think about it?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
It's just part of my life. Like, I have
Yes.
a car, and I try to have a nice positive footprint.
Yes, that's right.
But do thank him, please.
I will. Oh my gosh, of course. I don't know if you can see it. I mean, he's the one request he made was that the graduation party has a place to show it.
Okay, that's
He
fine.
wants to show it. But you're not invited to the graduation party. So I gotta think of another way.
That's fine, but I value him, thank you.
Thank you, thanks. Yes?
Okay, mine is really technical, I'm sorry guys. So friends of mine we have tickets to see Judy's show on Thursday. So
Wonderful.
I'm pleasantly surprised to find out that you directed it.
Yes, thanks.
Do you find was it more challenging with a small one-person show versus an ensemble? Because it seems to me like people would think like, oh, it's gotta be easier, it's one person, it's this and that.
Yes, the question is about the difference between an ensemble or more than one actor, and whether one's easier than the other, and is it maybe ironically harder to do a solo show. I think there are trade-offs to everything. I mean, I had the experience of directing a big musical over last summer, and this is a musical I co-wrote, and it was like my baby, and I'm pushing it up the mountain, as it were, and that had 30 people in it. And it was really daunting and scary and hard and wonderful and exhilarating. And this is all of those things in a very different way. I would say this isn't harder, but it has different kinds of challenges to it. I guess what I think is that the development of the material itself, because it was one person, and that one person was also the author of the book, and the focus there's a personal aspect to it. As I was saying before, I asked her or encouraged her to be vulnerable, to ask questions, harder questions about where she was coming from, to answer the question of why are we watching this show and all of that stuff. And those are things that I did not engage in with the actors in the other production, because we were busy kind of rehearsing scenes and staging musical numbers and things. So one challenge, big challenge, the staging of a musical number with 27 people in it is really a big challenging thing. And so how can you equate the difficulty of it, the other difficulty of dealing with one person and the things that you have to be mindful of in that equation is very different, but also challenging. And so I will say that I did say, you know, I have the same, I brought this, a lot of the same team with me, a stage manager, a production designer, costumes and sets, and a sound designer. They did this production in summer with me, and they did this production. And I will admit, we were all very like relieved and like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier because there's so much more time, and it's one person that we have to be looking after instead of 27. And so I did feel like this was a more joyful job, although there were other things that were more satisfying to me because that was the show that I wrote. I felt really just different, very different, accessing a lot of the same skills and feeling very different challenges. I don't prefer one over the other at all, actually. I loved them both, and they were both kind of on either end of the spectrum.
One in the back, and I think we're just about out of time,
Not
so
on my
this will
count.
be the last question.
Okay. Okay.
No pressure.
Yeah.
None at all.
I was curious about your friendship as being one that was so long-standing, and if it was
Yes, we were out of touch for some years, not many, many years, and we were never close like, this is how I always think. It's like the person that you call when you're moving. It's like, I need you to help me carry my sofa. That's someone that you're close to, I think, if you're not gonna pay them. And so I think she's become a sofa friend, actually.
That's very
Cool.
really close. Do you at least get her dinner?
I do, yeah.
Well,
I feed her a lot.
Okay.
Lots of onions.
I like to feed her, yes, lots of onions.
Ah.
No, that's the last question. That's kind of anticlimactic, isn't it? Well, I mean, how to tie it all around. I know that we're not here to advertise materials for the arts. We're just here as they're hosting us, and we're in this wonderful warehouse where magical things happen. But I'm a sincere fan of this organization, and my friendship with them goes way, way back. My affection for what it is that they're doing, the way that it works with the way that I feel about how humans can be when they're really firing on all cylinders. So that's friendship, right? That's like, they're my sofa friend, I guess. I would, I've tried to do as much as I can to publicize or to support the organization. I love it. I was really attracted to the idea of coming here and doing this podcast because of it. And I guess that's my closing statement about it, because I don't think a lot of cities, again, superiority of New York City. I don't think a lot of cities have quite a program like this, one quite like this. And I just love everything about it, like the give and take of it, the people who run it, and that they've made their lives of this kind of providing these services and this wonderful place for other people, and then the people who partake of it, who create and who are part of the cultural lifeline of the city. It doesn't get better than that for me. I just think that's the greatest thing ever. So thank you for having me. And
Thank you so much.